Thanks for joining. My name's Grant from Prospel. I'd like to, before we kick things off, I'd like to very quickly acknowledge the traditional owners of the land on which we meet today. I would also like to pay respect to the elders past and present and emerging. On a side note, I'd also like to extend a big thank you to Engineers Australia who have made today possible. So the kind folks at Engineers Australia are committed to helping young engineers moving into the profession from education to the workforce and making sure that they're basically able to make an impact in the future. So you can become an Engineers Australia member for free as a student by simply heading over to the Engineers Australia website, which I'll actually drop in the chat in a moment. So as I said, my name's Grant from Prospel, and I'm joined today by three panelists. So Ricky from Teach for Australia, Jan or Janani from Capgemini, and Daniel from EY. So let's go around the virtual room per se and do some quick introductions. Maybe Ricky, if I can throw to you first. Do you want to give all the students on the call a little bit of a background for how you got into Teach for Australia and what your role is today?
Cool. So hi everyone, I'm Ricky. I studied mechanical engineering at the Uni of Newcastle a while ago now, and then was an engineer. I worked as a maintenance engineer in the smelter over there for a couple of years. Then I worked in consulting in Adelaide and Perth, designing like mostly industrial air conditioning systems and piping systems for power stations for a couple of years, and then made the decision to do a career switch into teaching. And now, thanks to Teach for Australia's leadership development program, I am now a Year 7 maths and science teacher here at Centralia Middle School in Alice Springs.
Awesome, welcome. And I've got Jan as well from Capgemini. How are you?
Yeah, very, very good. And I'd like to acknowledge that I'm joining from Wallumed-Gull Land in the city of New South Wales. So thank you. And yeah, just want to explain that I've been working in the consulting space with a tech degree for almost 20 years, but in the last 2 years, I've had the honor of running the graduate program and mentoring, coaching, and now also recruiting into Capgemini. So we're a tech consulting and a managed service type of business. So definitely have loads of engineers and not your traditional pathway to go into consulting, but really happy to talk to you all about what that could look like.
Awesome, thank you. And Daniel?
Yep. My name's Daniel or Danny, either of the three, and I've got a background in mechanical engineering and physics. So I graduated about 5 years ago now, and since that time, I've been working with EY's Rome electricity market modeling team. We work in the electricity sector, helping to provide advice to solar and wind developers, governments, electricity infrastructure asset owners, essentially providing a forecast of the future 15, 20, 30 years and let them know what the energy market's going to look like. So it's good stuff.
Awesome. Great to have you on. And just to quickly frame up this focus session per se, so it is for careers outside of engineering, and we and the panelists were having a chat earlier that this is a really interesting one for students with an engineering degree, because typically as an engineering student, you typically think engineering, consulting, construction, etc. But like we can see on the panel today, we've got a variety of different career paths that you can go down with your engineering degree. So hopefully you get a lot of value out of this session. So let's maybe dive into things because I've got a few questions to ask the panelists initially, but for all the students on the call, if you'd like to drop some questions in the chat as well, and if we've got time at the end of things, we can open the virtual floor up per se, so we can get your questions answered. So first one, and I might throw it to you, Jan, actually, on this. What roles are currently available at Capgemini for students with an engineering degree or studying an engineering degree at university?
Okay. So I'm going to talk about it globally as well as in the Australian context, right? Because you never know it might not be your immediate focus in the next 2 years of where you want to head, but it's good for you to know peripherally what's happening in a consultancy such as ours. So really focusing now in cybersecurity, network engineering, IT programming, that kind of stuff. So I'm going to talk to those technical skills. We do look for management strategists, consulting types of degrees too, and org psychology, all that matters as well. But from a technical space, we are looking for that kind of network and IT type of engineers. But your traditional engineering, like the way the Capgemini is going, our focus is going, is the intersection between IT and OT. So, the operational technology. So this is the, if you ever get the view, pretty much any manufacturing, any big field type of work have an OT arm, and usually there is a distinct division between IT and OT. They literally sit on separate floors. IT is not allowed to touch any of the OT systems, which handles all the technology for the important stuff. But what we're finding that we're going to be consulting more in is how we can actually bring those together and use cutting edge technology to take our organizations to the next level in terms of technology. That's where an engineering degree could also come in and does. We've got a massive DEMS team, which is like a digital enterprise manufacturing systems team. Look it up from a Capgemini point of view to get a view on it. But we've got a 55,000 strong group of engineers who do that kind of stuff. And so consulting in general, in a nutshell, is pretty much trying to go onto a site, you go to a client, trying to work out what their technology landscape is, what they need, and then see what the suite of new technology is. So, artificial intelligence, drones, cloud, all that stuff, all the fancy new things, data, big data, analytics, all of that. And it's kind of like marrying it up and seeing how we can evolve to take to the next space. So that's what you could do in consulting with an engineering degree as well.
Amazing. So much variety there as well. And I'm sure students will be really keen on some of those specific roles. So maybe we'll get to that a little bit later. Ricky, if I can throw to you next, in terms of roles available for engineering students at Teach for Australia, can you walk the students through maybe some opportunities?
Absolutely. So I'm actually employed directly by the school that I'm working at, Centralian Middle School, but sort of thanks to Teach for Australia. So they run a program called the Leadership Development Program that's aimed at people who are sort of like already experts in fields other than teaching, such as students with engineering degrees who are interested into like getting into teaching as a career pathway. Normally to do that, you'd have to do a 2-year master's and then begin working as a teacher. But the program's structured in a way that you can do those things simultaneously. So I started studying teaching in November, and I started working as a teacher in January. So it's a more of a like learning while doing and like fast-paced way of doing things. And also paired up with they're really looking for people who are interested in getting into teaching from the point of view of like making an impact and promoting equity, which is very much my sort of motivation for being where I am. So in terms of roles, teaching is what it's all about, or at least short term for the 2 years of the program, and then you can take those leadership skills wherever you fancy thereafter. And depending on what you've studied will sort of influence the specific subjects that you can teach. So with mechanical engineering, I'm an expert in the field of maths and science, and especially physics. And so, those are the things that I'm teaching here.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing. Daniel.
Well, I guess talking about roles at EY is a little bit difficult because EY is kind of, I think of it as a company of companies because we're several 100,000 strong globally. So I can really just give my particular perspective. And that is essentially that even though I only know I'm very familiar with what our team does. I know lots of engineers, even in the Brisbane office, which is several hundred strong. And pretty much if you come to us, you'll go through the grad program application and they'll hook you up with people who are in a particular, I guess, sector. So I'm in the power and utility sector dealing with renewable developers. But there are engineers working in the automotive industries, mining and resources. And I'll admit I'm not too familiar with those parts of the firm, but there's lots of different spaces within EY to go. And really, it's just about getting switched on people who are passionate, primarily in the consulting and forecasting space. That's what we work in.
Amazing. So, and Ricky, maybe I'll throw back to you for this one. What does Teach for Australia actually look for in an application? And if you can sort of dovetail off that, what do students need to show in order to progress the next round of recruitment? So when they're putting in their application for Teach for Australia and the graduate positions that I believe are currently live right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, correct. Yeah, good question. So they have like a formal list of criteria, like selection criteria that they're looking for. I would definitely encourage people to sort of reach out to Teach for Australia and have that conversation with a recruitment manager. I guess more informally, as somebody who's in the thick of it at the moment, I'd say that like I absolutely love the work that I'm doing and it's so fulfilling, but this is by a large margin the most difficult role that I've ever taken on. So I would say that like having a real desire for it, and especially with that sort of like equity mindset of wanting to work in a classroom that's maybe more challenging than average and where you feel like you can really like make a positive impact, is the most important skill that I would say that's required of people. Having that motivation, that drive, and that ability to sort of just like know why you're in the situation you're in is really really good for times when it does get challenging, as it is for everybody sometimes. But yeah, the Teach for Australia team is really great at like providing specific advice for the like exact kind of like leadership and resilience and problem solving skills they're looking for. But I would leave it to them as the experts to have those conversations with individuals.
Awesome. Jen, maybe one for you in terms of Capgemini. How can students, because I'm sure you get probably thousands and thousands of applications every year when you open up opportunities, how can students stand out when they're submitting an application to Capgemini?
When submitting, there's a two-part answer. First part is to link with what Ricky was saying, was you need to work out your core values now, like first, like what are you actually about? Other than needing a job and about to finish a degree, you need to actually focus and do some soul searching on what's important to you, right? You could have done an engineering degree and really keen on sustainability or human rights or something that you've heard and love, but here you are, spent 4 years and got an engineering degree. But that's okay because careers are no longer linear. You know, you don't have to finish your degree, become an engineer, do that for 40 years and then you retire and then you'll finally have some fun. You don't need to do it like that. You can literally go sideways. But in order to go sideways, you need to know what you're about and what's important to you. You might love people, interacting with people, helping, mentoring, coaching people. Then you need to look for opportunities that will help you with that. So know yourself first. Then when you're looking to join an organization, try to find a match on your values with the company's values and where they're trying to head. Jump on the website, find their mission, vision, purpose statement, follow them on LinkedIn. So LinkedIn and the branding that I do is to show people on that platform what we actually do, because you never know what you're signing up for. So look at previous posts, what the company's announcing, what they stand for, to see if you align. Because then once you know yourself and know the company, then you automatically know why you want to work there. Then you can articulate why you want to work there by writing a pretty good cover letter explaining it. But my secret sauce for anyone, build your brand on LinkedIn. Do it now. You might not have a job, but you might be interested in stuff, right? Anything. It could be big data, could be coding, it could be world peace. I don't know, but whatever it is, build your profile, get a decent photo, not your Insta Facebook photo, but a, you know, like a professional looking one, in work mode type. And then you can choose to blog about what you do, or you could write your own chatbot. Someone did do that, you know, generate your own chatbot and post about what you're doing, your progress, use some data from somewhere, World Health Organization on COVID, and then do an algorithm on it and post about it. Or find, if you can't go there, and that's fine, because I would find that personally difficult, find written blogs and stuff that's interesting to you, share it, and then write about why it's good for you. Because the recruiters like me who are like that deep in CVs right now as we speak, I'm trying to find 20 software engineers by 19th of April. I get a CV, I look at it, I read the highlights, and then I go on LinkedIn to see more. I want to see what they're about, and that gives me a holistic view. So that's my single biggest tip, is build your brand now. You don't have to wait to be doing amazing things at work. You can start doing it straight away.
Amazing piece of advice. I love that. Especially around find your values first and then match that up to the company, as opposed to typically what we see is that students will kind of apply for a lot of companies because there's a lot of jobs out there, but they won't actually know what that company stands for and what they actually do before they apply. So I love that advice. Do research first. Daniel, what about yourself? Any bits of gold that you can pass on to the audience in terms of how they can get their foot in the door at EY as an engineering student?
Yeah, I think what Ricky and Janani touched on was really great. I think that idea of passion essentially is what I would just want to touch on. If we're going to look to hire someone, we don't really want someone who's going to just come in for 6 months or a year. And that might be the case, and we're obviously forgiving of that. But we want to look at someone who's really passionate about the sector. So for us, it's the electricity sector and the decarbonisation process. So to have someone come in and just to really believe that they genuinely care about what they're going to do, then we're more than happy to invest the time training them, because we're going to feel like we're working towards the same goals. And I think that for a bit of context, I came into the team 5 years ago with no experience in the electricity sector, but my thesis topic was at least in the sector, and I definitely displayed an interest and passion for it. So I came in knowing absolutely nothing about the technical details, but it was clear to my employer that it would be worthwhile investing in me, and that's why I've stayed here for 5 years and sort of have no inclination to leave anytime soon, because I really like what I'm doing in the space I'm in. So it's tricky to sort of read that off people, but the more you can convey that, and I guess it comes to being genuine. You want to get a job that you want, so go after those jobs and understand what you care about.
I really like that. And going back to conveying why you're interested in X, Y, and Z at EY, is there anything that you did in the application process to help you land that job, or that helped you stand out in particular?
Look, my answer is that I essentially use my network to get it. And I think that is, unfortunately, it's tricky, but it really is a key point. So my thesis supervisor, because I was really open to him, just casually mentioning I'm looking for a job in this space, he just thought, oh, my good mate works in this company. And that's how I got the coffee catch up. And I think it really is as simple as that, because then I got to meet someone and they know my face. And it's just being open about what you're doing and where you're going, because then you'll be fresh on people's minds. And that's how I got in the door, really. And then once I had the conversation, it was clear that someone knew me. So that goes a long way. So building that network and being open about what you want will give you more opportunities, I think.
Yeah, most definitely. And that sort of dovetails into Jan's point earlier about building your network through LinkedIn as well. Ricky, do you have any tips and tricks in terms of, from a student's perspective, like how they can build a network to help them get a little bit of a better position in terms of when they're applying for graduate positions?
Yeah, to be honest, this is going to be a bit of a case of do as I say, not as I do. I'll definitely say that I'm not a LinkedIn user myself. but it is a fantastic tool that I would highly recommend like graduate students to use. It's certainly helped me in the past like several years of engineering, and certainly coming into those graduate roles. Yeah, I think all of Janani's advice as somebody who was involved in recruitment previously myself as well is just gold. Yeah, making those connections is really fantastic. And like Daniel, I've also I sort of accidentally stumbled into one of my engineering roles because I happened to meet the engineering manager at a pub, and it happened from there. So just like the networking is a very like useful and important thing as well. So I just say, yeah, striking up conversations with people and going to events where you can be having those kinds of conversations, and really that why first stuff of like, you know, we don't care as much about like what it is that you studied and sort of like all the credentials and the experience and stuff. Like that's important, but it's secondary compared to like why you care about this in the first place, and like what your drive is. I think if you're motivated to, like, if your values are in alignment with the organization's values and you're really motivated to do the thing that they also want to do, then they'll be willing to sort of like look past a lot of how do you say, like the actual little process things that might need to happen, because that's by far the most important thing.
Awesome. Love that. And Jen, if I can throw next question over to you, actually. If we, let's say we fast forward a year or so, that the students have now got their graduate job at Capgemini. They've started in, when do they start? Feb 2022 will be the next.
We make it up as we go.
Do you? Okay.
I'm literally doing one in April right now, then probably July, and probably again in December. I don't know if you know, but what we're seeing is a massive boom. Everything just went like this in terms of demand in the employment market in 2020. And now it's just going hyper, like, you know, doubling intakes. This is all good news. So it's not a bad time.
Great opportunities
for finishing degrees. Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of opportunities there for students. So let's fast forward when the grads started their first day, or even 6 months into the role. Can you give any pieces of advice to students and future grads on what they should do and what they should try to avoid on the job?
Yeah, I've got an acronym for you. AI is so important, right? So for everyone on this call, AI, I don't mean artificial intelligence, I mean attitude and initiative. We don't care. Sorry, but we really don't care about the hard skills. Can train you. We really can train anyone on the hard skills that you need to meet. Yeah, you've got to have aptitude, but you can't teach people initiative and you can't teach people attitude. And that is what, you know, Daniel and Rick, you guys have been so lucky just to know people and get jobs. That's really cool. That's really lucky. I think that's less possible sometimes. When we run large scale assessment centers, pretty large, you know, big crowd come in and, you know, we're trying to work it all out. I sit back, I work with our reception staff, and we suss out people to go who can just take initiative to get stuff done genuinely, you know, like you can't fake that stuff. And that is the type of person I look for. And I get the chance to actually recruit people for the organization. I don't really don't care about the tech skills, don't care about your WAM, I don't care about your A+ grades. I really look for the attitude, the ability to communicate, the interest to actually work it out for yourself, because people don't have time to spoon feed, and it's very frustrating in a fast-paced environment. So we need people who will go, I'll work it out. I'll come to you, won't flounder for a month, but I'll try, work it out, communicate the steps they took, and then they go, okay, I need some help. That will get you through the door. That'll keep you on track in your first year and beyond. Hands down, that's the only thing you really need. So work on your attitude.
AI, I love it. A new meaning for it.
Yeah,
love a good acronym.
I thought it was clever when I made that up. Do you like it?
I'm a fan. Daniel, what about yourself? Any like big do's and don'ts for grads at EY, or just even in general?
Yeah, look, I'm very aware of the culture at EY. It is a work hard culture, and I guess my advice is don't forget to look after yourself, because I haven't succumbed to the EY, the culture of these big companies. Not singling out the one that I work for, but look, there is this pressure, and I understand it. You're fresh, you want to make a good impression, but the first year of your career is only the first year of your career, and I think that thinking about how to put in strategies to sort of survive longer term, like putting in exercise, mindfulness, just well-being habits, because then you can summon the motivation to push forward. And I genuinely, I care about all of our staff, but I also, from the selfish perspective, want them to last more than a year or two or three, so that they can continue to provide value. So it's, yeah, I know coming out of university as well, I had awful habits, but thankfully when I started work, I thought, look, I'm going to change and look after myself, and it has definitely done me wonders. So I think that focus on well-being is very important.
Amazing advice. Always look after yourself. Ricky, anything to add on that point?
I just want to underscore what Daniel said. I think, like well-being and self-care is when I was in university, and when I sort of seen in applications a lot in the past couple of years, is questions about like demonstrating resilience, or like a time you achieved a challenging goal. There's this tendency to talk about like, I had like these exams and all this stuff was due, so like what I dealt with that was I just like hid in my room for a month and did nothing but study, and like sacrificed my social life, and everything got done. And it was great, which sort of like when I was at uni felt sustainable for me, but isn't. And employers, and I think I can speak for all of them, just like aren't interested in that. They want you to be like happy and healthy and sustainably working in the place that they're in, because then you're going to be enjoying yourself and you're going to stick around. So, and certainly in this context, so I'm teaching. I'm employed as a graduate teacher, and I'm also studying a master's, and both of those things are very like autonomous, and it can take like as much or as little time as you're allocated to it. Like assignments, for example, or like lesson planning, I can plan a 1 hour lesson in either 15 minutes or like 1,000 millennia, depending on how much time I allocate to it. And being able to make sure I allocate time to like having a social life and doing self-care, and then what you said, Daniel, like going for bike rides and meditating is really, really, really important. And I would encourage anyone doing a graduate application to like let that shine through. If you're talking about some priorities you juggle, then one of those priorities probably ought to be like taking care of yourself, for example. Because like, after all, that is the whole point of life, is it not?
Love it. Thanks for sharing. One last quick question, and we've got a couple of questions from the audience. And for the audience that is still online, get your questions in quick, because we've got a couple of minutes maybe to squeeze those in. In one quick sentence, why should students apply for your company? Who wants to take this one? I can open up the floor.
Yeah, look, I'll go. Oh, no, you go. All right, now I'm talking, so we're going to do that.
Go, Daniel.
Love it. So look, the electricity sector is going through a crazy rapid change, and essentially with our team, you get to play an active role in that change. So if that sounds interesting, feel free to reach out on LinkedIn, and yeah, that's it.
Yeah, that was good. Well done, Daniel.
Jen?
Because we will help you get the future you want.
Chris, I like it.
That's our tagline, by the way.
That's not made up on the spot.
I thought you invented that.
No.
We can go with it if you like. I'll edit that bit out. Ricky, what about you? Teach for Australia. Why should students apply?
Look, I was an engineer and I loved engineering, but I didn't always feel like I was doing good for the world. And when I did feel that, there were lots of degrees of separation between me sitting at my desk and the impact I was making. in teaching. I'm still living a life of maths and science, and it's great, but I'm at the exact opposite end of the spectrum where the positive impact that I'm making is literally the student that's in front of me or the alerts coming over the loudspeaker.
Virtual events, there wouldn't be without an inappropriate background. Awesome. So I've got one question from the audience. Ahmed asked earlier, I would love to know if there are any software roles at your companies. Jan, I think you actually touched on that there was some software companies, some roles for software developers and engineers.
I'm looking for lots of software engineers to start as early as April 19th. But the problem tends to be that we need them to be Australian citizens or PR holders. But yeah, we do understand the predicament international students are in. I'm trying really hard to find a way around that to find contract roles for international applicants, but not a structured program per se. But when CVs come in, and a lot of them do come in, we kind of shuffle it to say, can you kind of give this person 3-month gig to fulfill what we need? So so that's how I'm tackling it. But yeah, we're looking for software engineers. If you fit the bill, please drop me an expression of interest. I sent the link on chat.
Awesome. Thanks, Jan. Well, we're unfortunately out of time for today's session, but big thank you on behalf of Possible to all three panelists, Daniel, Jan, and Ricky. Awesome insights. I really enjoyed the session.